never end, but they finally did. They were a way of life for a while. But we've come this morning, and I want to share with you from Galatians chapter 6 and verse 9. For it says there, "And let us not grow weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not." Heavenly Father, I ask indeed that you would help these ladies and gentlemen, the leaders of Bradley County, that indeed they would faint not. Lord, when the tough decisions come about roads and bridges and developments and sewers and water lines and all the financial things, all the developments that they face, Lord, I pray that indeed you will strengthen them, that indeed they would not grow weary, and that indeed we could make progress. We ask all of these things in your mighty, powerful name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Conrad. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pastor. Mayor Davis is not here today, but Assistant Mayor Adam Lewis has the revised budget from the other day, and he's going to pass those out. And if you could, get the old ones back to us and we'll recycle those. Do you have anything else that you need?
If I get one?
Yes, I believe so. Thank you, sir. Now reports from committees and/or districts. We will start to my left from Commissioner Winters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This has been a difficult week for Bradley County. And with the loss of Hollis Maddox, as far as I'm concerned, Corky Whitlock. Hollis Maddox was a great supervisor at Bradley County Schools. He was a mentor for me. He was the guy that helped me to know when to go to my office and when I could leave outside and everything was fine. And really was a great man. His funeral will be tomorrow. We lost a fireman. Charlie Rose, as you know, passed away several months ago. There's going to be a service for him this coming Thursday at noon at Westmore Church, so we can honor his life. He was a fine teacher, member, coach, school board member, and a guy that was, when he was your friend, he was your friend. He was close to you. So we'll miss those, as well as Corky Whitlock, voice of the town. So that's all I've got, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Winters. Commissioner Redmond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to reiterate what he said about those different individuals. Early last week, I was over at Corky's house and prayed with the family, and it seemed imminent. I know God can intervene at any point and change things, but I think about Corky and his life. He was the eyes and ears for so many people, and the number of games and so on, and I think that he even helped with some of the young ball teams, and he was just fantastic, a great person, and married to a great lady. So please pray for the Whitlock family. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one announcement. We will have an SPCA meeting on Wednesday at 12 o'clock in the Louis Offord Conference Room.
So Wednesday at noon.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Chairman Moe. Two quick things today. I'd like to say congratulations to the Lake Forest archery team who made it to the World Tournament. They placed 22nd out of 43 in middle schools in the world and beat their all-time high score. So congratulations to those coaches and students for all their hard work. I'm going to touch on something next. I received a lot of calls, emails, just tons of folks in my district that were voicing their concerns and disagreements regarding the increased salary for the Riley County School Board. I want to say that I think that our school board, hands down, some of the best school board members in Tennessee. They work hard. They do a great job. But I also think that timing is everything too. And when we're talking about a 200 or 300% raise, I can't go there. Had a pandemic. We've had lost jobs, just struggles. And I understand the money that they're asking for is accounted for from the Bradley County Schools budget. But this is also taxpayers' money, and for this, I cannot get there on this. And the third and final is I want to say about Corky Whitlock. I lose my voice. Corky was the GOAT. He called a lot of my basketball games when I played at Bradley High School, and it didn't matter. Fun things I remember about Corky Whitlock is it doesn't matter if you had a good game or a bad game, Corky always found something good in everybody that if you didn't have a good game. So let's remember Corky and his family, and that's all I have, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All's well in the fifth today.
Mr. Longfield looking good. Commissioner Thompson.
Yes, hey, I'm told.
Mr. Cry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to place a resolution on the session for next week to vote on. Resolution fixing the compensation of the members of the Bradley County Board of Education when attending regular and special meetings and discharging the duties imposed by Title 49 of the Tennessee Code annotated. You have a copy of it. You were given a copy last week. There was one mistake on that. You've been provided a corrected copy. The chairman was receiving $300 per month instead of $200 per month instead of the $300 that was on the resolution. I'd like to place that on the voting agenda for next week. Outside of that, second district's doing fine.
Okay. We'll discuss that a little bit more, Mr. Cry, item A, because part of the work session that we'll discuss.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, sir. That's okay. Commissioner Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, as well.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Alter.
Yes, the second district's doing fine. I would like to, Mr. Peake's not here today, chairman of the chairman of the Building and Land. If we could set up, get with her, Ms. Lori, to set up a meeting of the referencing the EMS building on Wildwood Avenue. I think Building and Land needs to go in there and review that building and see if there's more maintenance than just a new roof that we're putting on that building. I think it's behove us to look at it a little closer. I was in it a year or two ago, thoroughly disappointed at that time, and I understand there's been some improvement, but I still think the Building and Land needs to go in there and look at it again.
Ms. Lori, go reach out to Commissioner Peake and get something set up.
Other than that, second district's doing well.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Hughes.
Mr. Chairman, I've heard some sad news Tuesday of last week. Come to find out our road that was going to fix the problem on Georgetown, as far as traffic around the school and backing up, was going to be fixed. Now it is not. That has been removed out of the budget and is not occurring. This is a situation that I don't think people understand how dire that it is, how dire of a need it is. We have an ex-commissioner out there, Commissioner Smith, Trustee Smith now. I believe you were having these complaints even when you were in office. So I think it'd be safe to say we're going back probably close to 30 years ago. So to help you out to understand how dangerous this road is, I took and pulled some records. Georgetown, from the city limits to the county line, I checked from May of last year to May of this year. There was 93 wrecks. 93 wrecks. And I know that seems like a long distance. We're talking about a stretch probably 7, 8 miles. Out of those, I was thinking, well, people were going to say that's a long distance away from the school. So I decided to shorten it. I went a mile from the school. From that mile, 51 of them. So out of 93, 51 of those were accidents within a mile of the school's distance there. Out of all those, there was 9 with injuries. Now, that's 9 cars that have injuries, 9 reports. That's not counting all the people in the car that was injured. It's not counting the deaths that are included in those. It's just injuries. Out of those 9, there was 1 entrapment. And I, for the life of me, can't figure out in 30 years why we can't fix a problem. I do not understand it. I know the school board is complaining it's been 28 years since they've had a raise. It's been 30 years since we've had this situation. When are we going to come to this problem? We've solved so many, and we can't solve one problem that's at Hopewell School. This is no more than Russian roulette with our children and our parents and the people that live in that area, and even the people that just commute. This is a state route. This is not a county road. This is a state route. Let's pull our parents, let's pull the kids off from that roadway and put them on the school where they should be. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have to say at this moment.
Thanks, Mr. Hughes.
Mr. Travers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and just to iterate what Commissioner Hughes has said, basically, I almost think that the process now is tied up in engineering, and basically, I wish that me and Commissioner Hughes could get involved if the school board would be willing to allow us to get involved, because with my background expertise, maybe there's something that we could look at as far as the engineering and trying to get this procedure and moving quickly, and trying to get that problem resolved, because it's been going on, like they said, for 30 some years. So hopefully we can, or hopefully they'll let us come to the table and try to help to see what we can do to facilitate that moving forward. And also other things that have talked about, got a lot of exciting news about infrastructure and a proposed road, if Lori would put it up on the big screen. But basically, this is a new proposed road. I was invited to a meeting the other day, and basically the yellow is I-75, and that red line is the new proposed road that the state of Tennessee, TDOT, has just awarded a grant to start, or to pay for 50% of the planning of looking at making this road happen. Basically, you would actually get off of exit 20. You would come to the, which is the other yellow line there before you get to the red line, and you would come to the new Tom Rowland interchange. And if you go up there right now, they don't have a red light at the end where there's a road, like a road leading to the right where it doesn't go to nowhere, but that's where that red line would start. And that red line would end up coming out over by Harrison Pike. It would actually come right down from Philippi Baptist Church and between the farmhouse restaurant. And then basically, you would basically go up to where the blue line would be, and that's the interchange of Harrison Pike and Freewell Road. And then Freewell Road going all the way over to Highway 60, which Eureka Road is already a alternate route if the interstate was to back up. Then it's called 306 versus what the state calls it, the Eureka. But basically, in the long term, what would be the goal would be to Freewell Road, and the blue line would become a state alternative route, and then the maintenance of that road would be maintained by the state. And then the red line would be also a state road. And it's encouraging that TDOT is paying for over 50% of this plan. So just basically wanted to bring that out to y'all and show you and update you what's going on for our road infrastructure. I know we've been proactive here in this commission with infrastructure of all kinds, roads, water and sewer, and broadband. But basically, just letting everyone know that we continue to work. We're working on infrastructure such as this. They would also encourage on the red line there, the new red line, basically, and towards the yellow line, which is the interstate, tried to promote a new commercial area similar to Turkey Creek up in Knoxville or Cambridge Square in Doodlewall. And then residential all to the more encouragement of growth and residential to the south of the red line. Basically, this could be huge for Bradley County to help build a tax base revenue, but this is, and they say TDOT, I asked the question of how long they think this would before we would start breaking ground on this new road, proposed road, and it's probably about 5 years. So, but just basically wanted to update everybody on that. It's a huge improvement for the first district, basically one of the fastest growing residential areas in Bradley County right now, and this will help relieve some of the traffic and down Candy's Lane and so forth. And then basically that leads me into my second item, basically, and I think everyone has a copy of this resolution. Basically, we did a resolution not too long ago that at the intersection of Freewell and Harrison Pike, we wanted to suggest a red light, but TDOT came back with a good proposal and said, instead, why don't y'all consider not a red light there, but a roundabout? And actually, and then a lot of people I've talked to in that area have concerns about that intersection and all the growth that we're anticipating happening there. So they thought that the roundabout would be a lot better ideals in a lights and stuff. But the other thing TDOT said that, and it was estimated at $1.5 million to make that roundabout happen. And they wanted us to be able to, or they requested if we wanted to move forward with it, that Bradley County would incur that cost. So basically, this resolution that I'd like to put on, Mr. Chairman, on the agenda for next voting session would basically be sent to Dan Howe and Mark Hall, which is over transportation at the state, basically asking them to get with TDOT to try to get them to reconsider the funding of that roundabout and hopefully get the state to participate in funding that endeavor. And basically that would work in with what we were just going over with the new road and everything and improve that area tremendously. So I'd like to have that placed on the agenda. And the last item would be the CTI and AD engineering firms that is conducting another infrastructure progress that we're working on is water and sewer master plan for Bradley County. They want to meet with the stakeholders June the 17th at 9 a.m. Here in the commission room. And basically that's probably about 10 of your active developers in Bradley County. They basically are wanting to hear some of their concerns and their challenges of developing in Bradley County. And that will happen here on June the 17th.
June 17th at
9 o'clock
here in this room.
Yeah. And encourage all the other commissioners to join, and it'll be a good conversation and a good meeting. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr.
I guess I'll throw my 2 cents in on roads, since y'all talking about roads. 64 highway, you know, they need to fix what they already got instead of building new roads. And we drive up and down 64 highway, that's the gateway to the national, Turkey National Forest, supposed to be, a scenic highway. And sometimes I have to catch my tire, it goes down in a hole. So it's pretty bad if you drive from that place to town. The road's pretty bad, and they haven't done anything about that yet. And I've talked to the state representatives, and both their representatives are Dan Howell and Mark. They're both on the TDOT committee, and hopefully we'll get something done, but we haven't yet. And this has been going on for a year or 2 years or so. And we got holes in that road out there, and we got road, if you sit out at my place, you can see how many cars pack that thing today. And if that tax off of that gas don't help pay for that, well, there's something wrong. But now we need that fixed, and it should be fixed before anything else, because it's an existing road. And they need to quit talking about new roads until they fix the old ones.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Anything else, Mr. Rusher?
That's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I do want to acknowledge Hollis Maddox. He was around full circle, but he was always good to me and good to a lot of people, good advice, good man. And then Corky Whitlock, you know, grew up listening to him on the radio and ball games and WBAC getting ready in the morning. And then through athletics, and when I became a coach, had the opportunity to get to know him even better. And he was just a class act man. And I believe he was partly responsible for some of the baseball leagues, little league stuff that we had going on here. A big proponent of that, and was very involved in not just starting it, but coaching teams and being a part, and touched a lot of people's lives. So both those people are just great people, and we owe a lot to them. I just wanted to mention that. Also, I want to recognize somebody, and if Mike Smith and Deborah will just come up here. Mike Smith, our trustee, and I just want to read something. You know, I believe Commissioner Alford once said something about this, that we need to recognize people when they've done something well. So Deborah Everett has worked as the accountant in the Bradley County Trustee's office for the past 15 years. During her time overseeing the financial operations, the office has received perfect audits from the state of Tennessee auditors. The office serves as Bradley County's bank and holds all the county's funds, averaging $50 million, processes all county payments, and Deborah personally handles all county investments. The county investments have continued over the past 15 years, averaged above the market rates, generating millions of dollars of interest to be accumulated by the county. The new investment strategy implemented over the past 15 years has earned over $6 million in additional interest due to the investment changes. Deborah also serves as an internal auditor for the office, overseeing and managing internal processes and controls. Deborah holds a bachelor's degree in accounting from the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, and recently, this is while we're honoring her today, recently graduated and tested to become a certified county finance office at the University of Tennessee program, sponsored by the State of Tennessee Comptroller's Office. The CFFO training program, including areas of study on cash and grants management, internal audit, capital projects, and financial reporting. I just want to say thank you for your willingness to step out, the great job you do, and to go above and beyond to become and receive this certification. You are greatly appreciated.
I just appreciate y'all's support. We couldn't do what we do without the help and the support of the commission, so we appreciate it. Know many of you guys personally.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Commissioner Alford.
Yes, one thing you didn't mention, that she's an outstanding pickleball player. Been using our pickleball courts quite heavily, and is on my case all the time to build some more. So she does a wonderful job. Actually, she's been in the state tournaments and all that stuff. So, and I saw without Mike being around, so it's a lot of things that goes on that he doesn't aware. He's not aware of. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to say? Commissioner Blaine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I probably send over quite a bit of questions over to that office asking for information, and not one single time I've ever gotten emails like no or we'll get to it. It's always immediately that I get information from them. So I very much join you in sharing the appreciation for the fine work they do. Also, I think it's worth mentioning, Trustee Smith told me the other day that the comptroller's office from time to time just, all of a sudden shows up, unannounced, and they're basically there to check and make sure everything's being done in order and according to Tennessee law. I believe last week that occurred, and the trustee's office passed with flying colors. Everything was in order, all the cash drawers were perfect, so it's a job well done. So again, I appreciate all you do for us.
No doubt about it. And Trustee, you obviously missed your calling in HR. When you hired her, it was probably the smartest thing that you ever did.
I agree.
Thank you again. Okay, moving into the agenda, item A, Commissioner Crown.
Well, I'll repeat myself. I got ahead of myself earlier. I'm sorry. I'd like to place on the voting agenda next week a resolution fixing the compensation of the members of the Bradley County Board of Education when attending regular and special meetings and discharging the duties imposed by Title 49 of the Tennessee Code annotated. And I'd like to place that on the agenda.
Be on the weekend. Commissioners, any comments? That's Commissioner Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Crowd, would you go back and repeat what you said about the chairperson? Because I think that one is going to 800, and what was it previously?
It was $200 previously, and it's
So his is 3 going to 8.
3 going to 8, yes.
So, you know, I have a very hard time giving anyone a 300% pay increase. I worked in the secular corporate world for over 35 years, and never did I see anyone receive a 300% pay increase. I'm not opposed to the school board members receiving some type of pay increase, but I don't support it being 300%. If you go back the 28 years that they have not received a pay increase, and if you do the math and give them a 2% pay increase, which is what the teachers and most other Bradley County employees receive every year, that would bring their compensation up to about $325 a meeting or a month. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but that's the pay increase that every other Bradley County employee has received for the past 28 years, on the years that they have received a pay increase. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Hughes, I'll get to everyone.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be quite honest with you, I've spoken with many constituents of mine, and all of them have felt that they deserve a raise. I have not found anyone just said, no, they don't need a raise. But all of them consistently have said that it's just too big of a raise, and they're saying the same thing that you're saying. I've not met anybody or spoke to anyone that's not said that yet. Maybe somebody else has, but that's all I have about it.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Mr.
Chairman,
Winters.
I was on the school board till 1993, and I realized that this looks like a huge raise. But in that year, we made $60 a month during that period of time. As I left, that's when the $200 happened from the school board. And all I think this move is to move them with their peers in the city. The city makes this amount. The city school board members make this amount, and not any more, not any less. I think that's the movement on this, is to bring for 27 and a half plus years, moving it up to a level where their peers are. The school board members in my district make X dollars, that the figure we're talking about here. The school board member that passed in my district, one of the last conversations he had with me was, we don't get enough for what we do. We need to be at least equal to our city representatives. That's where it came from to me. And it does look like a huge amount when you play the 27 years. When you go back from $60 for a month to $200, that was big in that day too. And I moved on to other jobs after that. But it is what it is. It's what school board members make at this point. I looked at TSBA. There are many school board members making much more than this, and there's a few making at this level and a few less. So I mean, it's not trying to be exorbitant. I don't speak for the school board. I do speak for the one school board member that doesn't speak here today, Jerry Frazier, that said that they weren't getting enough funds for what they do. They would like to be equal, at least to the city. That's where I live. Commissioner Hughes.
Commissioner Winters, you brought up a good question. I probably could have asked this somewhere else, but I'm curious about something. You said the city made no more, no less than $600, right?
The city makes
Do you know if they get raises also?
The figure we're talking about.
Do they also get raises each year, or do you know?
I don't know what the school.
It's just a question. I'm not questioning it one way or the other. I'm just curious.
I'm just speaking to the other.
Comment? Mr. Epson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there any way that we can find get information that about any other counties like say in the same size population in Bradley County of what their school board members would be getting paid.
I'll see if we can try to do that before next week, get it to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson?
Is this resolution have to stay as it is, or can it be changed before?
Be substitute motion for our board.
Substitute when it comes back. It's a resolution, go another resolution up. Okay. You know, everybody wants money. I'd like to have a few more food stamps myself.
Anything else?
That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else want to comment on this? Okay, thank you. Item B, Commissioner Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee met last week and reviewed the mayor's budget proposal for the 21-22 budget. There were a few changes I'm going to go over with you rather quickly that we made, or additions, if you will. First, just looking at the pages if you want to follow your budget, but on page 7 in your budget, we put $37,500. We created a new line, 399. We did this in order to pay the CTI study, that contract. In the past, we've been taking that money out of 599. 599 didn't have the 37 in there, so we basically did two things right there. The 37,500, which is the remaining part of that contract, in line 399. Next thing we did, we were looking at the emergency services, EMS, budget. There's the maintenance position there. And a motion was made, a substitute motion was made to send that to a joint meeting with finance and emergency services. But since then, Mayor Davis has corrected that. You can see that correction that the mayor's made on page 56. And I believe that eliminates the need for the joint meeting on that. Those are the items on the general fund. Next, Mr. Chairman, we also unanimously voted to allocate $20,000 in the landfill, Fund 116. You'll find that on page 83. And basically, this $20,000 that was put in there, and this is not property tax, this is not sales tax, this is the money that comes from the landfill. So, but basically, that $20,000 is in an effort to the cleanup process of the tires, mostly over exit 20, but anywhere. But it's also worth noting, Mr. Chairman, that our very own Commissioner Mason also serves as our environmental officer, is pursuing grants to that effort. And it was agreed upon that we would use the grant money first and pursue that. The $20,000 is there in case that doesn't show up or we don't get it. We got to start cleaning up something there. Working with a few agencies on that. We're going to work with the city. I understand Tennessee Highway Patrol is also involved, TDEC and so forth. But basically, at this point in time, we're architecting a budget, so we earmarked $20,000 in there. Next, Mr. Chairman, when we get to page 76, we didn't make any changes per se on there, but we did put a contingency on the $16,500 on the museum. There were some questions as to whether they're debt with the city, and basically we'll want to make sure they're in good financial health. So we'll look forward to seeing some members on that. An email, I believe, has been sent over to the city, and once we get some feedback on that, I'll report back to the Finance Committee and the full commission on that. But basically, all we did was put a contingency on that 16.5. We didn't take it away, we just put a contingency on it. Last thing you'll see on page 149 and Fund 189, we were informed from the school board and Dr. Cash that they rescinded their request for the $500,000 or $550,000 out of Fund 189, so Finance Committee voted to zero that line out. So those are the changes that were made to the 21-22 budget. And we'll follow the calendar, and eventually we'll be voting on this budget on July 6th in budget resolution.
Any questions from any commissioners on those changes, per se? Okay. Have a seat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In addition to the budget proposal, we also took up the end-of-the-year amendments, the true-ups as they're also known. And you have those before you, the General Fund 101, basically all the funds there. The important thing, I think, to note on that, Mr. Chairman, is that per Director Samples, they did not this year have to go into any of the respective fund balances for any of the funds in order to cover the cost on the expense side. So basically what that's saying, at an aggregate, no one went over their expenses in the current budget, which is a good thing.
That is good. Very good. Very good.
And we need to adopt these amendments, so I need to put this on the voting agenda for next Monday to adopt the final amendments to the current budget. So if you'll put that on the agenda for me, I'd appreciate that.
Will do. One question, if someone were to have appeals, you know, one of the departments or whatever, when is that last opportunity for them to do that?
I believe that's the next voting session. No, is it next Monday? Yeah,
that
so,
would-
well, yeah, we'll need to put that on, goes on the agenda as well to recognize any elected official or department head who wishes to appeal the 21-22 budget.
Right, correct.
I don't think they'll appeal the current budget.
No, so I just wanted to ask this.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yes, that's part of the budget calendar is to appeal anything that would be the last opportunity to change this budget before it goes to resolution.
Anyone have any, oh, sorry.
No, I was just saying, but these, you're dealing with current year, what we're in right now, and the budget we're ready to vote on in July 6th.
Anyone have any questions of our finance chair?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, sir. All right, at this time, opportunity for communication from the audience. Anyone want to speak before the commission, come on up and state your name and address.
Okay, my name is Lonnie Setlich, 2448 Executive Park, Northwest Cleveland, Tennessee. Mr. Epperson, you had asked something, you wanted to see what the other school boards, this is in reference to the school board increase.
Excuse me for just a minute, and I know you've never been told this, so you
Okay.
don't know that.
Direct to you?
No, just don't direct to a single
Okay, I'm sorry.
individual. No problem.
Okay,
No
forget it.
problem at all, that wasn't attacking or anything.
Okay, no, this was an answer to his
Yes.
question.
Yes, sir.
I did some research, so I haven't found county levels yet, you know, been looking at that, looking for that. But when I looked at the national level and the most current information that I received or could find online was with Ballotpedia, and in 2017 through 2018, 75% of the small school districts, and we would be considered a small school district, in Bradley County, 75% of them receive no compensation annually, okay, for their, to the school board members. Some of the large school boards, including New York City, Houston, and Chicago, do not receive any compensation for the school board. Now, their reasoning, again, you know, I listened to, you know, Mr. Winters over here explain what he was saying and the reasoning, all that. That aside, you know, these are things that we've seen. Now, there are school boards out there that do quite well. You know, Los Angeles, I think they get $125,000 a year, $125,000 a year per school board member. So there are those on the other side. But that's before we started looking at this, and when we first saw the proposal out there, the proposition, we wanted to do our homework, and I think basically, you know, why are we seeing such a high increase? Committee members, Cindy Slater made a comment, you know, if it was 2% per year, and we went through that same exercise, which, you know, seemed more fair, and especially in the times that we're looking at right now. That was what I wanted to share at this point in time. If I may have another question or another comment later on, but at this time right now, Mr. Chairman, that's what I'd like to say. So gives you an idea. 75% no increase or no salary or compensation, and including Chicago, New York, and Houston. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. State your name and address, ma'am.
I'm Barbara Gilbert, 193 Pin Oak Drive here in Cleveland, and my remarks are focused to the school board. I hope to share some information for your thinking as you discuss this. There is a paper called the School Board Goals, and on that, it contained in that listing of goals, the Bradley County School Board calls it their strategic commitments. There's 5 items that the Bradley County School Board shows as their commitments. The first one is the measure to investment. The measure to investment. So prior to their election, I know because we've been in the community, each of these candidates that are now seated at the board ran a vigorous campaign. At that time of their campaign, 2 things were apparent to them. One was the job description, and 2 was the compensation. Now, apparently, that was acceptable by everyone who wanted to be a present school board member, because no one left their campaign, and they moved forward and became elected. So how does that apply to their number 1 strategic commitment on return on investment? To my knowledge, there has been no articulated increase in activities or responsibilities of the Bradley County School Board members that attempts to justify an increase that amounts to 3 times their current compensation. We've already discussed that the 6 members get $200 for a 1-month meeting. The chairman gets $300. The $200 compensation to each of the 6 board members would be raised to $600. The chairman, who is presently getting $300, would be raised to $800. That's mighty good work for an elected official that has 1 meeting a month. That, according to the budget, that would take the $1,500 that is already allocated for their salary a month and increase it to $4,400 a month. There's another item that is listed on the basic commitments, and it's called to improve, this is their goals, to improve teacher morale. If I am correct, I believe the county approved a 3%, not triple, but a 3% raise for school teachers on the county side. Do you know how much out-of-pocket money a teacher spends for the privilege of teaching? To decorate their classrooms, to get enough tissues for runny noses, plus the numerous supplies that are not furnished by the school system? Do you know how much a parent puts out at the start of every school year for supplies and tools that are needed by their student in order to accomplish the work that needs to be done a year? Parents have a list of all the supplies that are needed. Every child in that classroom gets the same list, and those supplies are presented at the beginning of the school year and used in that classroom. Why? Because the school system is not able to supply those tools and supplies to teach our children. If there is money to the amount of $3,000 additional laying waste in the county account under the Department of Education for Bradley County, I want to be perfectly clear. It should not go to elected officials who up front accepted the job, took the oath of service at knowing the job description and the compensation. If there is money available in the county treasury, it should go to the children. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak before the commission?
I do.
Yes, ma'am. I'll give you time to get there before your time starts.
Thank you. It looks like a lot, but it's in 16-point print, so I can see it. So I'll read quickly.
Go ahead and state your name and address.
Yes. Deborah Gleason, 295 Corbin Road.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, thank you for this opportunity to express my concern regarding the budget for the 2021 Bradley County school year. I would like to emphasize that I'm not against our commissioners and school board members of Bradley County. I only wish to understand how each of our government entities work and how they interact with our county and state. Albeit I understand that I am no rocket scientist, however, common sense I do grasp and tend to follow those types of explanations much easier. That said, my husband and I have been attending commissioner meetings, school board meetings, and speaking with individuals in the school system in the attempt to understand how these departments work together. In the process, I have developed a perception, which can either be right, wrong, indifferent, but it is a perception. So I come with some questions that I don't have the answers for, generally speaking, but concerns that I hope to have addressed with a common sense approach, which will help to make adjustments in my perception or to confirm my perception. So let me begin. Number one, after listening to the budget presentation of the school board to the county commissioners and the discussion at the school board meetings the past several weeks, I am bothered by the percentage of the county budget allotted to the school board and some of the areas this is being spent. In addition, the state and federal allocations attributed to the COVID-19 shutdown, which Bradley County Schools has received. I will spare you repeating the exact numbers. You are aware of those numbers. Suffice to say, the budget requested is still an increase from the last year, with additional supplements from the state and federal governments. I think there is a contingency fund of about $7.2 million and a rollover of $11 million, which I would have thought would have been more considering it wasn't business as usual. Schools shut down, utilities and maintenance minimized, no busing, teachers work part-time, staff works part-time, administrators work part-time, while many of our community lost jobs and businesses. Am I understanding this correctly? It has been stated by a commissioner that the following projects were the basis for the tax increase last year. Lake Forest completion, which is the Wildwood Lake, Black Fox Elementary, West Side, North Lee Schools, North Lee Highway, salary increases for EMS and first responders, Pie Center Construction Initiative. One of these projects is on the west side of our town, Black Fox Elementary. Is my understanding correct that improvements and construction of all schools in Bradley County are funded by all taxpayers in Bradley County, whether or not an area's children would attend that school? Schools are not in districts, so taxpayers in my district are always paying for schools such as Walker Valley High. Is it correct the Board of Commissioners determines all funding increases for the schools, or is that determined by the school board? Moving on to the school board, let me first state that I have met and know some of the administrators and teachers and have no doubt that they care about our community and our children. I believe they are people of integrity and character. So my comments are strictly against how our tax dollars are spent. However, this concept that is being brought to the school under the pie is a necessity for the future growth of this county, state, nation. The uniqueness of this particular model is that it will be self-sufficient once they are off and running, which could take several years to mature. Other such concepts have a model supported through tax dollars. If I am not correct with this, please educate me. The projects I don't support are heated and cooled AstroTurf on our high school football fields. Come on, I've heard the argument. I really don't want my property tax increased to support this. In fact, one of the comments made at the school board meeting was, "We will be the first in Tennessee to have these turfs at our high schools." Really? I think if this was a proposal voted on by the people, with their eyes wide open and not something we depend on the school board and commissioners to decide for us, it would be voted down. Another project, which you say have been removed from the fund now, I have a problem with our property tax increase last year to support a road system at Hopewell School to accommodate all parents dropping off and picking up their kids each school day. Plus, we are still supporting a busing system on top of that. I understand the safety issue, but how does this affect the children in my area? Why did our area have an increase in our property tax last year to support that initiative? Again, I'm here at these meetings to try and understand. I'm here to let my representatives know what I feel. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else want to speak? Come on, Mr. Elkins, then I'll get you. State your name and address. Glad you're here.
Glad to be here. My name is Ed Elkins. I live at 222 Champion Drive in Camelot Subdivision out off of Highway 60. Commissioner Epperson and Hughes are my commissioners. I was always under the impression that the folks that served on the school board were doing that because they had a calling to do some things that was good for the kids and to manage a good school system. And I have to agree with an earlier speaker that questioned whether or not the people knew what the pay was when they ran for the office. So just basically, for a 300% increase for the board members, and I don't know how much it is for the chairman percentage-wise, but it's more than 300%. I think that's a little extravagant, and I know it's been a long time since they had an increase, but if they were willing to work for whatever the pay was for that period of time, how come all of a sudden they want such a giant increase? I just don't think it's the right thing to do in this economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Elkins.
Good afternoon. How y'all doing? Relax. Hey, Dan. Dan Rawls, Hall Norwood Road. I don't know if any of you all actually recognize the level of inflation that we're dealing with, because, of course, the government statistics are a lie, because they've eliminated so many of the things that are showing an actual increase. I went on Shadow Stats looking at what they are using the evaluations that was used from 1990 on back, how they quantified the actual inflation. So based on that, the inflation rate is 14% and rising steadily. I think we're seeing, anybody who pays attention to what's going on, that we've seen a stagnation in wages as opposed to the actual cost of living. And I think that the inflation is far out accelerating the whatever wage increase that people have. I just think that under these conditions, I would be appalled if I was a school employee that somehow I get a 2 or 3% wage increase, and that you're going to give these representatives, who has been clearly stated here that they accepted the position, ran for the position, understanding what the position was, and probably spent more money running for the position than they would make during the year, which is what generally happens. So what justifies all of a sudden that you think that giving somebody a tripling of their pay is justified? I mean, I would be ashamed to vote for anything like that. That I would look at my constituents in the face and say, oh no, that's cool. It's okay. They need more money. They accepted the position. In my opinion, they accepted a contract with their constituents that said, I'm going to do this at this level, because actually it should be considered a community service. And the compensation level was justified when you ran. But all of a sudden the school system gets a $12 million plus increase from the federal government over this whole sickness, whatever. And Now, all of a sudden, it's everybody to the hog trough. Let's all feed at the trough here and take the taxpayers' money. I find it appalling. I also find it appalling the person that puts it. I look at this as an insult that the person that puts this on the agenda leaves before there's any criticism. I just think that's ridiculous. Now, I don't know if y'all realize this, but I did some calculations, and actually you guys are paid less per meeting than the school board, if you take it and calculate it. So your fiduciary responsibility far exceeds theirs. So what's next on the deal? You guys say, oh, and using the previous justification that, well, this council over here gets paid this, that is a ridiculous, justification for an increase in pay, that because some other organization does it, we do it. So now what are we going to do? In 2 years, you're going to come back and say, hey, wait, look, wow, look what they get per meeting. We're only getting $191 a meeting. We need to be compensated the same way. They are not employees. They are not employees. They are elected officials who have one they're public servants, one meeting on the schedule a month. And I realize there are extra duties, but you knew that going in. Nobody came in thinking, oh, wow, okay, oh, look at all this extra work. Well, you know what? If you don't like the compensation level and you can't work within the next election to get it changed and then start at that point, if you can't do that, I recommend you resign. If you don't think that that is justified and that compensation is due and is enough compensation, then resign. You know what? I don't want anybody to force you to do something that is outside of your contractual agreement. You shouldn't do that. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about going to the trough, the public trough that the taxpayers pay for. That's what we're talking about. That is a ridiculous situation. Who in here has a business that would give their employees a triple increase in pay? Anybody? How long would you stay in business? And I want to commend Tim and Cindy, excuse me using your first names, but I did it, for your stand on that. And seeing the ridiculous place that we've put ourselves, and by even proposing this, it's just ridiculous. And sometimes elected officials think they're friends with other bodies. That's no reason to vote for this. No reason. This is about the taxpayers. You have this type of inflation. You have a community that has a lot of situations coming forward, and we're going to give elected officials that agreed to a contractual amount of money, and now we're going to triple their pay. I'm sorry, but that is ridiculous. Yes. Ridiculous. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Dana, just cause I said that ain't little more food stamps, I wasn't asking for no raise, I just said I could use a little more food stamps.
I know you, Howard, I got it.
Anyone else want to speak on anything for Chris? You've already had your 5 minutes, so you only get one. I'm sorry. Anyone else want to speak? Yes, sir.
I reckon I'll put my 2 cents worth in. My name's Bobby Kite, and I live at 4964 Cindy Circle. Had the pleasure of moving up here to Tennessee from South Georgia the end of 2017, and didn't know anything about Tennessee except for maybe a football team need a little work, but other than that, nothing. The state of Tennessee does not have state income tax. That persuaded me to a great extent to come on over the Georgia line. My daughter moved my grandbabies up to Blue Ridge, Georgia, so that was an option. Above and beyond not having that state income tax was a lot of stuff that I started looking at and listening to, and I guess the word conservative came to mind. That this state was a conservative state, a place where I'd like to come and maybe even entice my children and grandchildren to come over too. Now, sadly to say, I feel the wind changing course a little bit, so hopefully that conservative moniker will stay in place, where I plan to hang my hat until I don't have a hat to hang anymore. This particular topic, to me, the good man said a while ago, and it's resonated with me, a justification for paying these county school board members was because the city school members made that amount of money. Where I come from, y'all may not have heard this, it's a bad path to get on when you try to keep up with the Joneses, right? And that's exactly what that is keeping up with the Joneses. And it's keeping up with the Joneses that has started that ball rolling years back and is creating the social and societal changes that we see going on, not just here in Bradley County, but across this once great nation. I'm with everybody who said nay to this raise for them people. It's really absurd. It's laughable. If you got somebody, I really do believe, subjectively, that don't have a dog in the hunt, and they look at that and they say, oh, these people are asking for, what, 600, I think, % increase? They would look at you with disbelief. They say, what? That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. The young lady here said something, and she did her homework, Miss Cindy, about the 2% for the people who actually do the work. Now, I'm not saying board members don't do the work. And I'll tell you something else that crossed my mind when I was listening and looking at all these names. Here again, I'm new here, so I don't know all the big names. There's a couple up here on this that I do recognize as being a little bit more prominent. And as I learn, as I become more active in the community, I'll take that task upon myself to find out who's married to who and whose cousin is whose and whose best friend is whose and who goes to this church social with that one. And I would beg you, if you've got those people on the county board that are your kinfolks, or your good friends, or your cousin's good friend, or fourth cousin by marriage, I'd ask you to recuse yourself from that vote, because that's the only right thing to do. That is basically, morally, characterly, the best thing to do. Okay, and that's it. Thank y'all.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else want to speak? Okay. Moving on, announcements. Let me see if I can get all these in. The next meeting will be Monday, the 21st, here at noon. Also on that day, the CTI committee, the Water Sewer Committee, will meet June 17th at 9 o'clock here in the commission room. The Agricultural Committee will meet today at 1 o'clock. It's going on now. Elks Lodge Annual Flag Day Ceremony is tonight.
That agricultural committee meeting is
Yes.
at 5 o'clock today.
5 o'clock, okay, thank you, sir. The Elks Lodge will be having a Flag Day ceremony today at 6 o'clock at the Elks Lodge front lawn. Yes, Mr. Goins?
Yeah, I'm a member of the Elks, and they have moved that inside due to the heat.
Moved it inside?
Yeah, it'll be inside.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. The Board of Zoning Appeals will be June 17th, 5:30 in the commission room. Planning Committee, June 17th, 6 here in the commission room. Friday Festival, which is a musical thing they have, will be from 7 to 9 this Friday night at First Street Square. And SPCA will meet Wednesday at noon in the Louis Offer Conference Room. Did I miss anything? Okay. This meeting is adjourned.